Writers would go to Normandy for inspiration. This was the case for Marcel Proust.
This photo was a scandal in the family because it really clearly showed the relationship between Marcel Proust and his young lover Lucien Daudet.
If you're passionate about Proust, you have to come to Aunt Leonie's house at least once in your life.
Hello and welcome to a new edition of France in Focus. I'm Nadia Shalby, and this week you find us strolling under the Marcel Proust promenade of Cabourg as we mark the 150th anniversary of that great novelist's birth. It's along these shores that Proust penned much of his most famous work, the 7-volume saga In Search of Lost Time. In it, under the fictional name of Balbec, the town was recorded for posterity, as was this, the seafront Grand Hotel. At the turn of the 20th century, Proust took his summer quarters in this newly opened establishment that inspired a recurrent backdrop to his famous novel. Virtually unchanged from its Belle Époque heyday, the author's room, number 414, has been painstakingly recreated with period furnishings and decor. But before we find out more about Cabourg's Proustian legacy, let's take a closer look at what was a short yet hugely influential career.
He made his life his literature. Some critics condemn Marcel Proust for being an unbearable snob, long-winded, and with absolutely no idea of plot. To others, he is the great novelist, managing in À la recherche du temps perdu to encapsulate the intermittent nature of experience, and giving us the Madeleine moment, the cake dunked into tea provoking involuntary memories, including a missed kiss from his mother as a child while at his aunt's house in the French countryside. Born on the 10th of July 1871 near Paris, he was a sickly child. He had his first asthma attack aged 9. His father, Adrien Proust, was a public figure, an epidemiologist and author of books on medicine. His mother was from a wealthy Jewish family. The mother-son relationship was extremely close. He never acknowledged his homosexuality to her, though she did have cause to suspect.
This is one of the photos showing Robert de Flers and Lucien Daudet with Marcel Proust. The photo was a scandal in the family because it really clearly showed the relationship between Marcel Proust and his young lover Lucien Daudet. Marcel Proust's mother asked Proust to retrieve all the copies of the photo in circulation and destroy them.
After various essays, articles and translations from English, Proust started the 7 volumes of À la recherche du temps perdu in 1909. He was 38. The first volume to be published was Du côté de chez Swann, Swann's Way, in 1913. He paid the publisher Grasset to get the work into print and sought literary recognition.
If Mr. Grasset would like, I would enter it for a prix Goncourt. I say that a little by chance, as I don't really know what the prize is. In any case, a prize-rewarding work about a happy life would be impossible because of the extreme license and indecency of parts of the novel.
He won the Prix Goncourt in 1919 for the second volume, called Within a Budding Grove. He spent much of the last 3 years of his life confined to his cork-lined bedroom, working round the clock to complete the novel. The final volume was published after his death from pneumonia in 1922. He was 51 years old.
Well, just in time for this anniversary, a new museum has opened its doors. Under the name The Villa of Time Found, this immersive exhibit takes visitors through a sensory trip back in time, with none other than Marcel Proust himself as their guide. And to give us a little tour, I'm joined now by the villa's director, Romain Lambert. Romain Lambert, hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much for having us. Before we go into the villa to discover the exhibit, could you tell us a bit about the site itself?
This villa was built in the 1860s, around the time the Cabourg seaside resort was born, by a family of architects, the Parent family, who happened to be very good friends of Marcel Proust. Proust used to visit them here when he stayed in Cabourg, and that's why he features so prominently in the exhibitions here. But Proust's presence can also be felt in the villa's surroundings, particularly in its back garden, which was conceived with a landscape gardener who chose plants that were mentioned In Search of Lost Time, so as to reimagine what the garden of this seaside villa would have been like.
Shall we go inside and take a look? So how does Proust act as a tour guide here?
Proust is really the protagonist of this villa. He acts as a guide for visitors here. It's a museum that was really designed with Proust in mind, but it's not about Proust, because he didn't actually live in the villa. Visitors find him every time they walk into a new room, because they'll hear readings of extracts of In Search of Lost Time. They'll also find him through the portraits of friends of his, like Cocteau, Bergson, and of course his own portrait, painted by Jacques-Émile Blanche, is also here, as the Musée d'Orsay has lent it to us for this inaugural exhibition.
And what a portrait it is. Now, I think we can actually sit down here.
Yes, absolutely. These sofas have been lent to us by the Mobilier National, which is a French institution that lends furniture to organizations, so visitors here can sit in sofas actually from the era.
Now, the Belle Époque era is really a moment, as you can see in this decor, that evokes a time of opulence and also of technological progress. Is that also very present here?
Yes, definitely. Here at the villa, we wanted to show everything that was flourishing during the Belle Époque. It was a very rich era in terms of art, but also technology. It was the beginning of aviation, of the telephone, of cars. We wanted to bring all of this into our displays, so we've also introduced digital elements to present the works, using modern-day technology. We're also delighted to be able to show objects that we've reworked to give them a new life, such as the Pathé Coq film projector, which captured pictures and retransmitted them at the same time. We wanted to show the delicacy, beauty and sophistication of these artistic creations, but also the big technological advances at the start of the 20th century.
Should we go and see some more?
This room showcases artists in Normandy.
That's right, because Proust wasn't the only artist to be inspired by Normandy. How do you explain the area's creative attraction?
Normandy is a region situated more or less between England, France and the Netherlands, which partly explains why it attracted so many artists. But more importantly, it was its landscapes, its light, its beaches that brought so many artists here, because there's really a very special atmosphere on the Norman coast.
And who are the artists you have here then?
We have Impressionist and Post-Impressionist artists that were admired by Proust. We've got works by Helleu, by Jacques-Émile Blanche, by René-Xavier Prinet, who is the painter of Cabourg. And we're also very pleased that Rouen Musée des Beaux-Arts has lent us this work by Monet, who was one of Proust's absolute favourite painters and who helped inspire the character of Elstir.
So all 5 senses are stimulated in this exhibit. Dare I ask you whether that includes the Madeleine cake dipped in tea?
Yes, of course, Proust's Madeleine, which is really the origin of his work, because in the first volume, Swann's Way, it's the dipping of the Madeleine in tea that triggers feelings to rush back, so that he's able to write. We conjure it up throughout the villa, thanks to all the interactive elements, but of course we also invite visitors to head over to the tea room in the garden for a cup of tea with a Madeleine, because of course no visit to the Villa du Temps Retrouvé would be complete without that.
Sounds like the perfect way to end this visit. Thank you very much, Romain Lambert.
Merci.
So clearly Cabourg is keen to keep the Proust connection alive, and it's perhaps no surprise, as the man famously described by Graham Greene as the greatest novelist of the 20th century still enjoys legions of fans, both in France and abroad.
In the heart of Illiers-Combray, to the southwest of Paris, a cultural gem. This was the house of Marcel Proust's Aunt Léonie, where the writer would spend his holidays with his parents. These days, it's almost become a holy site for those who love his works, like Bruno Saillant, the man who runs the Society for the Friends of Marcel Proust.
If you're passionate about Proust, you have to come to Aunt Léonie's house at least once in your life because it's so full of emotion. Marcel Proust loved metaphors, images to explain his words. What we have here are impressions of the environment of a young Marcel when he would come from the ages of 6 to 9.
The 19th century house is now a museum, which takes visitors right back to Proust's bygone era. From the kitchen, where family servant and literary character Françoise laboured, all the way to the bedroom, where a young Marcel would wait for his mother's nightly kiss. Not to mention the Pré Catalan garden, designed by Proust's uncle, an oasis of peace right in the centre of town.
Marcel Proust venait ici pour lire.
Marcel Proust would come here to read, to dream. The surroundings are particularly conducive to that. You're completely isolated from the world, from the village. You're communing not just with nature, but a little bit with yourself as well. And that's what Marcel Proust invites you to do.
Not everyone might be able to reflect on life in the centre of the Pré Catalan, but Proust's work has garnered fans worldwide, with one American fan running a site devoted to the writer's and, in his view, accessible work.
Take any volume of Proust, start on any page and read, whether in English or French or even Urdu. The language isn't what's important. You can start in any language, at any place, and read a few pages. Just 5 to 10 pages. And if it means something to you, keep going. Otherwise, try somewhere else, or in a different volume.
Proust's translators might disagree, but even so, a testament to both their work and his is the sheer number of languages into which he's been adapted.
So that's where we're leaving this voyage of discovery. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to France 24.